Yeah, I mean, hope is really, I think, what it's all about. Because at that point, what got me there in such a dark place was that feeling of hopelessness, that I felt like this is never going to get better. If I have to wake up every day for the rest of my life and feel like this, I don't want it. Like, I had so many things happening, but then I would start looking at things big picture, and then it's so overwhelming that I'm like, I just go into complete inaction because it's all so overwhelming that what's the only way to eat an elephant?
One little bite at a time.
Yes, one bite at a time. And that was one of those things that just changed my perspective and the way I looked at things, that I just started having to tell myself, one bite at a time.
I'll just do a little bit. Game on, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I hope for tomorrow, is that we could connect, understand that it's kind of all of a mess we're in right now, and then work collectively and collaboratively to make our community stronger. Hey, what's going on, friends? Jason here with the Love Local Chicagoland podcast. Excited to sit down with a mental health expert today. It's Quinette from the Schaumburg Mental Health Board. She's done some podcasting here before with other shows, the Mental Health Minute with Chris Salliards from the Bridge. She's also been a part of our local talks. My friends, we believe that mental health and improving our mental health as a community is really important. We think we could have a thriving community if we all fix our shit. Just to be honest with you, we all got it. It's a part of being human. Some have worse than others. Trauma is a part of this ride. Unless you fix that trauma and you develop new rhythms, it just might be a harder time here while you're here on Earth. So today we're going to dive in to a great conversation with her. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just really grateful for Royal Family Real Estate for being able to sponsor the show. It's going to be the #1 brokerage in the Schaumburg area, and they believe in local and believe in getting voices like Quinette's out, which is important. So, my friends, let's get to the show. Quinette, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. It was funny, you know, I'm sitting there watching social media, and I'm seeing Bridge do their thing and posting on social media, and I'm seeing you in that chair in a different shirt. I'm part of their podcast, which I'm like, as I walk in here today, I'm like, well, that's kind of why we built this thing, is so many people could use it from a place of wanting to be able to help uplift their neighbors. I think we could do that nowadays, and Bridge is doing that. Chris Salliards is doing that, and obviously you're doing that too. So for you to be here again, to be able to have this conversation with me means a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of want to start, with everybody recently, is like, what's on your heart and mind right now with what we're about to be able to talk about?
Yeah, I think big one is we're in such uncertain times right now that I think we're seeing more and more people struggle with their mental health and just kind of the lay of the land right now. So really, I just want to get resources out there, get tools out there, try and restore some hope out in the community that it won't always be like this. And even there's just small things we can do for ourselves to have some mental wellness amongst all this uncertainty.
Peace is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot put a price tag on peace. And
when you're struggling, or if you're in a cycle of unhealthy thinking, that it can be really difficult and hard to get to that piece. But as we'll kind of dive in today, there's some best practices. There's good habits to be able to chisel your way into. But, to me, I'm like, don't expect perfection. Like, mental health is a journey, like daily journey. I think we'll be with it for the rest of our lives. So it's about developing those right rhythms and developing good habits that are going to help us, like, have more self-awareness and kind of breathe through things and with the hopes of like, okay, I can work through this. So at the end of the day, you can live more joyfully. So for you, you're in the mental health board. You're obviously making an impact with what you're doing there. How do you see us taking this mental health problem and being able to create a solution with it. I feel it. I feel like we have a long ways to go, but from your level of expertise, how would you answer that?
I think just throwing tools at it. I mean, there's so many different resources available. There's so many different options that we just have to keep trying to tackle that problem. And we have to have grace with ourselves and with others and know that it might not be the first solution we throw at something that's going to fix the problem. So it's also just that being persistent and not giving up on finding a solution whenever maybe the first 10 don't work. It's just an ongoing process.
Yeah, don't give up, right?
Yeah.
It's find what works for you.
Yeah.
Or if you go to a therapist and like, oh, I hated that person. It wasn't my person. Well, for one, don't blame the person. It's my experience. But for two, like, go find somebody else. There's plenty of people out there. There's a cup of tea for all of us, somebody that could gel with us, that could understand us. I know from my experience with that, like, I struggled to find a therapist. I was on the show being like, oh yeah, therapy is great. Yeah. But I couldn't find my person, because I was on the 98th thing. And a woman in here, she's an entrepreneur and therapist. I'm like, oh, she gets the builder type mentality. And next thing you know, I have a therapist, and that from there, I was able to like heal quicker for me. Yeah. But it took that journey to be able to get there. You talked about like just start in grace. Why is that so important? I'm going to rephrase that question. Why is just start grace and like chiseling into it so important?
Oh gosh, because we're human first. Yeah. I mean, and you brought up like you can't expect perfection. If you do, it's such a fallacy. That was one of the greatest things I got from therapy whenever I first started was I now say I'm a recovering perfectionist because that strive for perfection, it was always one of my biggest barriers. It prevented me from starting projects. It prevented me from keeping with projects because it was this constant goal of perfection that if I wasn't going to hit that, then what's the point? Yeah. And my therapist wrote it on his whiteboard. I give myself permission to not be perfect. And that became my mantra. And that was really just approaching things with grace. And as humans, I feel like that's how we also have to approach others, is just that open heart and compassion and grace that everybody's going through something.
I think that's like a part of the human ride. I'm guessing some people have that perfectionism piece more than others. But where do you think it comes from?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I think just so many different things. I mean, maybe just upbringing, that need that we didn't do feelings in my house. So you just always had to have this image of things are okay. And then being in the military, that it was still kind of that same facade always of everything's okay. That I think that's where a lot of mine come from. And I mean, just society. I feel like as society, we really do kind of put that expectation out there for ourselves and others.
Yeah. And social media doesn't help.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. There's part of being human. If we're not aware, if we compare ourselves.
Yes.
And there's envy that could come in there, and there's other feelings. Okay, but we compare ourselves, right? That's not a healthy spot to be in, to me, because we're all built uniquely different to serve our own purpose. So to try to compete with the Joneses, to try to, be like the influencer you're following, like, well, is that you? Because if it's not, it's probably going to be more heavy than it is.
It creates just being inauthentic. And I mean,
nobody wants that.
That's where they say comparison is the thief of joy, because it's not authentic. And that is where so many people lose themselves in that. So,
yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think authenticity matters. Whatever that is for you, be you. Yes. That's where pure joy is able to come from. So you mentioned being a veteran. What else about, talk to us about your story and your evolution of mental health. You know, you've struggled with mental health, you've shared it, but you've also chiseled your way upwards. You've given yourself grace because you started. Share with our audience a little bit of your story.
Oh gosh, I mean, I feel like my mental health journey has several chapters, but I think the most profound probably goes back to 2015. I was a full-time student going online. I was a mom of 3, 5, and under, and just so overwhelmed, was still in the National Guard. So there was all of these plates I was spinning.
As you're doing that, I feel like these tasks just piling on you. Yes, because of the kids, you can't control that. It's a part of it, but keep going.
Yeah, there were financial issues. That's what I mean. Facing eviction.
Wow.
Unhealthy marriage. Like you said, it was just like putting on weighted vest after weighted vest after weighted vest. And I was always the last person on my totem pole. That I wasn't taking care of myself. I was constantly drowning in all of that. And I wasn't being honest with anyone that I was struggling. It was just struggling in silence because that perfection and that need that society just needs you to be okay. That everyone always said, I don't know how you're doing all of this. And it was always just kind of like, well, I have to. No one's showing up to do it for me. I have to do all of this. And meanwhile, I'm just suffering in silence and internally. It was like shower was my sanctity. I could go in there and the door's closed and the water's running. No one's seeing me crying and screaming internally. I'm not managing. I'm not doing it all. There's always something suffering. When you take on too many things, none of it's getting 100%. There's something lacking in each of those. And especially whenever I'm the last one on the totem pole, I'm getting nothing. I'm running on fumes because I'm giving everything else to everything else going on in my life. It all came to a head whenever I ended up just completely suicidal. I don't remember the date, but I can remember everything about my surroundings, laying on my living room floor, my son screaming in his crib, and I then had the plan formulated. Today was going to be the day that I was just going to end it all, because for months I'd been begging just to die. I just wanted to die. I didn't want to have to do it myself. I just wanted to go to bed, not wake up. And I lived with that for months. And then I was like, okay, well, if God, the universe, whatever it is not going to just answer my wish, then I will have to do it myself. So I called my mother-in-law at the time and asked her to come pick up the kids, because that was my big thing. I didn't want any of them to wake up from nap and find me. I didn't want them to have to live with that for the rest of their life. So just come get the kids, because that was my one last priority. Make sure they're safe, they're good, they're at grandma's. She walked in and found me still laying on the living room floor, and she wouldn't leave me there alone. You're getting in the car with all of us. So that resulted in her taking some steps to call around and find me a therapist that could see me pretty quickly. And then just knowing that resource was there was instantly kind of like that first initial weight off my shoulders that, like, okay, it's no longer a secret, because I think, like, keeping that sort of secret, it also just eats you alive. So no longer just kind of existing
it's
in
not
that
real,
darkness
right?
alone.
It eats you.
Yeah. And then started therapy. And that's slow going, but it was still something that then I knew, okay, I'm gonna take care of it. If I put in the work to do this and improve, then it'll improve. It can't get any worse. And I mean, that I think was kind of where I was at early on in my mental health journey is it can't get any worse.
Yeah. So you're in therapy, in your chiseling.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What's that upward journey look like for you?
I'm just implementing some of those tools that I was learning through therapy, that I didn't have to be perfect. And it was really a fool's errand to try and be perfect, because that's not real. As humans, it's unattainable. So it was really just grace early on. It was celebrating the small steps that I had to celebrate. You got out of bed today. You took a shower today. You wrote a paper today. It was celebrating what for a lot of people is just, we can cruise through it. It's not even a second thought. For me, I was toast at that point, that it was even the smallest of things. It was like, I didn't even want to get out of bed. Putting my feet on the floor a lot of days was like, I just had to celebrate that.
Yeah. We were managing so much before on top of things that you were working through. So like that just adds to that heaviness and that depression, and that you don't want to get out of bed. Right. And then, so it's not easy some days. Going to therapy some days probably isn't easy, right? Was that part of your experience too? Or like, I don't want to go today, or I don't want to do stuff? Like, what was that ride for you?
I think there's always those days, but for me early on, it was, I can remember he's now my ex-husband. He told me I needed to cancel my appointment that night. That resulted in me having a total meltdown, shutting myself in the bathroom and just sobbing, because at that point, it was like my only buoy out in the middle of the ocean. That hour was all mine. That I got to go unpack, that it was my time to address all of this chaos that was happening in my life. Whereas if I wasn't there, it was still me pouring everything into everybody else in my life at the time. So, therapy saved my life through that period of time. I wasn't dreading going. I was dreading not going.
Yeah. You felt it helping you heal?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. To me, hope is important when you're in that part of the journey.
Yeah.
How did hope play in a positive attitude play a role in your chiseling upwards? And how does it still?
Yeah, hope is really, I think, what it's all about. Because at that point, what got me there in such a dark place was that feeling of hopelessness, that I felt like this is never going to get better. If I have to wake up every day for the rest of my life and feel like this, I don't want it. And the longer you end up in that, the more hopeless it feels, that it's just like, wow, okay, this really is going to be every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
The hope was everything. That having just that little flicker of hope, that gets a little brighter the more work you put into it, that it just restores you.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. We talked a little bit about the tools. So therapy is one of your tools. What are some other tools that helped you?
At that point, I also say meditation. I was struggling with so much insomnia, which was another issue. I was a mom with 3 young kids, 5 and under. So that's already like sleep deprivation.
Intense, yeah.
And then I had insomnia, where then when I would go to bed, it's like I'm just laying awake, staring at the ceiling fan, going around and around, and couldn't sleep. And my therapist recommended meditation. And that was a huge one. Meditating before bed, then I could sleep and actually stay asleep. So then I started resting, which also just kind of restored some hope, that I wasn't doing 20 hours of just laying awake and staring in the dark, or 20 hours of just running, and just being exhausted constantly, that it's just that mental break to restore yourself was also profound in my world at that point.
Just like electronics, sometimes we need to unplug and plug ourselves back in, or else we're going to overheat in our own way, right?
Yeah.
So to have that time of reflection, that still time is really important in life. And when you're a mom, or you're in National Guard, you're in school, all this stuff, there's no time. At the end of the day, there's always something to be able to do, which becomes super heavy. And that could be different for other people. It's just like when you have your day full of things, it becomes more and more heavy. I heard you say something earlier, like you had no other choice. Like it was, I'm going to do these things and go from there, which I have a little bit of that in me too. Yeah. Which isn't healthy to a certain extent. Like if you're not aware, if you're not putting in good practices. So therapy was a good practice for you to help. Meditation was a part of it, and being able to quiet the mind. I think that's great. What else is out there? If somebody's listening to this and like, man, I've been struggling, maybe they're resonating with some of your story. What are some other best practices now that you've gone deeper into this mental health journey? What do you see people winning with across the board, knowing everybody's a little bit different?
Oh my God, there's so many different things that you can do. Some people it's journaling, some it's exercise, some it's meditation. That's what yoga, there's so many different options. It can be going out and riding your bike. Some people just need 10 minutes with their coffee in the morning, sitting outside, unplugged before we have the gas on the pedal all day long. I think it's you have to find what thing or what combination of things works for you, because there's an endless amount of things we can do for ourselves.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier something about working from rest. And there was, for me personally, there was a few pillars: working from rest, community with people, and exercise. Between those things, I was able to heal. I would say also my spiritual life through therapy and with therapy was the whole package to be able to heal. But being able to work from rest and to understand that the healing process is not a light switch was a lot as I look back on it now. And it takes time, but it goes back to why grace is so important, because you can't heal, but if you don't have grace and you keep going through that same cycle of that perfectionism, that voice in your head that it's not enough, that's not going to help you.
No.
Grace is key. And like humility, like, oh fuck, I am human, shit, and work through those things. Like I remember there was shame I had to work through. There was a lot of things I personally had to uncover, and everybody's journey is different. But when you allow yourself that grace, you could, and you have good rhythms, that time that it takes, although it takes a while, eventually you get there, and it's literally, I feel lighter. Me personally, it sounds like you feel the same way. Why should people keep in mind that like recovery, or I hate the word recovery, healing and growing, why is it not a light switch? Like why, any best practices to go through there for the people that maybe keep coming back to that perfectionism piece?
Well, I think that's another part of the human condition. It's not just going to be, all right, we fixed this, now it's never a problem again. Cancer comes back. Just because you broke your arm and got it fixed once doesn't mean you aren't going to break it again. There's always that chance that things are going to move backwards. That's what, whenever I started therapy in 2015 and worked through stuff and ended up in a better place, that didn't mean I had it figured out forever. There's been cycles or seasons of life that things get difficult again, that all of these good practices fall off, because when life gets chaotic, what are the first things we give up? Probably the things we shouldn't. The going out on the bike ride, the meditating at night, the making sure we jump in the shower for the day. those are the things that we let go of. Those are the balls we drop to keep other things in the air because, well, it can't be work. Well, it can be work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that is what's needed. Yeah. Sometimes you do just need to take a sick day because guess mm-hmm. what? Now I was always work. I just throw myself into work and then everything else will be okay. And I can mm-hmm. just pretend the rest of it's not happening. Yeah. Not anymore. I have the philosophy work isn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. I can go home. I can go to bed. I'm going to come back the next day and all that work is still going to be there. And
you're going to be better.
That's stuff with kids. That's anything. It's mm-hmm. all still going to be there. So you have to understand and have grace for yourself that not everything is going to get done for the day. Some days it will. Some days, some weeks maybe. Everything's going to be going great. But life has a way of coming out of nowhere and hitting you when you least expect it. Mm-hmm. That then things start kind of falling apart again. And that's when we just have to push the pause button, mm-hmm. take a second, and you got to take care of yourself. It's the oxygen mask on the plane.
Mm-hmm. You got to notice that you're saying it. You got to notice those warning signs. When am I spiraling again? When am I going into these bad cycles that lead me to there? You know, my wife hears me leads me into the couch. Like eventually it will lead me into the couch in a very depressive, anxious way.
Mine has always been, I call it circling the drain. That now I've started... After all the work I did in therapy and on myself, I now start knowing whenever that starts happening and I start getting closer and closer to that. And I've learned a lot so that now I always try to catch that so that I don't let myself fall down the drain anymore.
Yeah, totally. I want to get into the mental health board piece, but to me, it's going deep. But like shame versus grace in the healing process and understanding shame and how evil that thing is.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you're aware of it, you could win. And when you understand it, when you have grace. But talk to me about shame versus grace in the healing process from your experience.
I feel like grace is that knight in shining armor that can slay that shame dragon. Because shame...
It's a good way to say it, yeah.
That is what keeps you silent. That is what keeps you alone. That is what mental illness, struggle, all of that thrives in shame. Mm-hmm. And darkness when we're not talking about it. When we approach things with grace, especially with ourselves, I mean, that is how I had to start. I mean, just having grace and celebrating the small wins. And by doing that, that starts peeling back some of that shame. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get it all done today. And today I put my feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm. You switch to self-talk, right?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It helps. I do the best I can today.
Yeah.
It seems crazy. So I'll do the best I can. These are my priorities. Go. And if I get all of them done, great. If not, it's okay. Yeah. Just like you said, it's going to be there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's going to be there tomorrow. Yeah. Maybe you have to have a conversation or something like that about something, but it's all going to be there to work itself out. Just give yourself that time. How long have you been doing the role of executive director with the Schaumburg Mental Health Board?
Just over a year. I started last April with the Mental Health Board.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about what the Mental Health Board is.
The Mental Health Board, that's what they are supposed to look at the community needs. So they should be assessing community needs. And then they're also a funding body. So we award grants out to community partners that are doing the work in mental health, substance use, and then intellectual and developmental disabilities are the three service areas the Mental Health Board works in.
Awesome.
So it's really understanding the community need assessing that, and then coming up with solutions or finding community partners to work with that can address those needs that we're seeing to benefit the community.
Yeah, you're a connection tool, and to be able to look at the problems that are in our community deeper.
Right.
You talked about something on, and then we had you on the local talks about like getting involved in the community and like getting out and understanding what's happening in the community. Can you talk to us a little bit about that in your mindset and what you learn when you're out in these communities?
Yeah, I mean, I always say I am not the expert. Just because I am a social worker or an executive director, I do not have all the answers. I am not out in the trenches doing direct service work. I am not working directly with the community. So I really rely on my community partners, and I go out and have those conversations of what's happening out here. How are things going? What are you seeing in the landscape right now? What are the barriers you're experiencing? What are the wins? What's working? That it's really just having those open conversations with providers and figuring out what's happening in the community that informs me and being able to inform the board on what I'm seeing and hearing out in the community.
Awesome. So you've been doing this for a year. What do you think in this year's time, like what have you seen that gives you hope that we're improving our mental health systems in our like local communities?
I will shout out my funded agencies, the community partners. They are dedicated in uncertain times when it can feel really hopeless out there. They have the grit and determination that they are not backing down. They are solution focused, that they are always looking for new ways of addressing things, being creative in how to tackle some of these problems. They are wonderful. And that restores hope for me that we will figure it out. Maybe not overnight, maybe not in a year, but they aren't giving up.
What do you think are some of our biggest opportunities out in the community right now with mental health?
Dedicated providers. That is a big one. That their doors are going to stay open. They're going to find a way to stay open and serve the people in this community. Another one, I will plug Referral GPS. That's a partner we just started with. That they do care navigation. That for those instances when you don't know where to go. And even whenever I was struggling, that's why I'm so passionate about this project, that I didn't know where to go, who to call. And at that point, I was so exhausted and in such a dark place. I didn't even have the energy to pick up the phone, to search, to make the phone calls, to be told no 10 times. That with Referral GPS, they do care navigation. You put in a request. They will set up a call with you to know what you're looking for, what type of insurance, or if you have financial barriers, and they do the calling around. They find a provider that meets the criteria you've laid out, and then they will help make that connection to remove that burden of navigating our system.
Yeah, the system's a hot mess.
Yes.
It needs a rebuild.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
To be able to tighten up, but people still need the help. So that's good to be able to hear. What if somebody's looking to be able to get involved with it and learn more on how they could support with mental health in their community? What would you recommend for them?
Look at your local nonprofits. That's what I think. It depends on what extent you want to give back. There's opportunity to do peer support. If that's something that's calling you, I mean, there's ways you can talk to some local providers and they can get you the information on how to get certified. Reach out to me. I can get you information on how to go about doing something like that. There's also just volunteering. Sometimes that's just good for the soul. Get out and do some volunteering for a local nonprofit that doesn't have all the extra staff to do some of these smaller activities, that just give back that way. Give back at your local church, local food pantry. Donate some food to the local food pantry. it's some of those like smallest things can make such a big impact that you don't have to dedicate 20 hours of your week to volunteering or giving back or getting involved. That there's small steps you can take, just like you can for your mental health. There's small ways you can give back.
If I'll just do a little bit. Game on, I mean, that's what I hope for tomorrow, is that we could connect, understand that it's kind of all of a mess we're in right now, and then work collectively and collaboratively to make our community stronger, which is going to be an uphill climb, at the end of the day. Someone listening is feeling stuck today or is not feeling themselves. What would you say to them?
Hold out hope. I know that is so cliche that whenever I was feeling that way, for someone to say it's all going to be okay, that sounds so irritating. That's what, but I guess reach out your hand and ask for help. That's why I wish if I could go back to my younger self and just give her a hug and say, ask for help.
Oh, man.
There are so many people in line who are willing. You have people in your life that are willing to help you, but you have a facade on that they think you're okay and you're not asking for help. Just ask. I mean, call 988 if you feel like you're not ready to be open with the people in your life. Reach out anonymously and get connected with some resources. Reach out to a local provider that they can talk through some of that, but just ask for help. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. Yeah,
I agree. And just start grace and just the first step, and don't look too far into it. Just chisel into it. And
the first step is the hardest part. And that was one of the most profound things I also learned in therapy, is that was something I was always doing. Like, I had so many things happening that then I would start looking at things big picture. And then it's so overwhelming that I'm like, I just go into complete inaction because it's all so overwhelming. That what's the only way to eat an elephant?
One little bite at a time.
Yes, one bite at a time. And that was one of those things that just changed my perspective and the way I looked at things, that I just started having to tell myself one bite at a time. Like, all of this is very overwhelming, but it's just take that first bite. That is the hardest one. The hardest one to take is that first one. And then you start gaining some tools along the way that make it a little easier to sit down for a full meal, take bite after bite. But yeah, just that first step is the big one. Yeah,
it's a great analogy and great advice. So thanks for being on the show today. It means a lot. If anybody's looking to connect with you, where can they do that at?
Oh, gosh, I guess find me at the Mental Health Board. Yeah. I'm not on social media. That's one of those things I did for myself.
Yeah.
Was remove myself from social media, so I'm not on there.
Yeah, that's good. It's probably peaceful. That's awesome. So check you out at the Mental Health Board. Sounds good. Well, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you bringing your wisdom and your experience and just being real. Means a lot.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure, my friend. So, all right, friends, thanks for watching the show today. Mental health matters. That's why we keep talking about it. We kind of think it's a foundation of all we do. We got to take care of our bodies. We got to take care of our minds. If we do that, we can live joyous lives. And I think it's kind of the goal. Life's short here on Earth. As a reminder, it's like 4 billion years old. Maybe we get 80 years. Maybe. Maybe even a little bit more. But that's if we're lucky, my friends. But life is more joyful when we take care of here and we take care of here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get there, but you can do it. So start today. My friends, thanks for watching. Support local, love local. We're stronger together. Peace.